Hi, I am Aditya. In this video, I will be using storytelling as a teaching tool to introduce new vocabulary and further your understanding of metaphors and figurative language. Metaphors will be in red so that you can search the entire phrase for the implied meaning, and new vocabulary will be in bigger font so that you don't miss the spelling. So, keep an eye out for metaphors and be perceptive of any new vocabulary. Once upon a time, eons ago probably, there was a man in a place called Assam. He was the village storyteller and the best one there was. Many would travel months to hear his stories, which included futuristic machines and preposterous monsters that could be imagined. The listeners would wonder how the man could imagine such creatures and incidents, describing his tales as surreal. Once a traveler from the West showed him a caricature of an unique animal called a rhinoceros, and the man pondered why such an animal would require 2 horns. That night he imagined that same animal but with only 1 horn, and the next morning villagers were perplexed to see 1-horned rhinoceros in the jungle nearby. The storyteller was delighted that Assam would be known as the home of the 1-horned rhinoceros, but the villagers were angry, for they were superstitious and were cautious of any change to the norm. They scolded him and ordered him to tell only familiar stories, warning him of going against the grain, rocking the ship, which might commence bad incidents. The storyteller was disheartened and he secluded himself away from society. He could not understand the villagers and was confused by their willingness and insistence to follow old arbitrary rules and superstitions, and their fear of change. After all, how good can a song be if everyone sings the same note? People who came to hear his stories had to return disappointed, for he had barricaded himself inside his hut. He wanted to test the limits of his imagination and imagined an entire planet where people were not afraid to try something new, where conformity was discouraged and shunned. He was happy to live in his fiction and decided never to venture outside. But the next morning there was a commotion. The villagers were panicking as they saw a new object in the sky that was not there before. The storyteller realized that this was the planet he was fleshing out in his imagination and told everyone to calm down. But the villagers, still afraid, said that they believe him. But imagination is not a tool meant for everyone, and those who wield it should do it with caution. The storyteller understood their point and also realized there could be unknown ramifications if a new planet joined the night sky. Almost half the planet had already manifested, and as the villagers pleaded, the storyteller stopped it, and the half which came into existence broke into millions of tiny rocks which formed a circle or a belt between the planets Mars and Jupiter. As a child, this story instilled in me the power of imagination and its necessity, the need to develop and nurture it, how it led to inventions that started as fiction: the light bulb, steam engine, man on the moon. After all, what is now proved was once only imagined. Everything gets easier and more manageable once you believe that you can turn whatever you imagine into reality. I know, it is much easier to just say it. Who even has the time to think and imagine in this mechanical routine that is life, when it is so much easier to let your individuality be erased, to just follow, to conform? On the surface, conformity means behavior in accordance with socially accepted conventions. But some people came up with much better and more fitting definitions. Conformity is the last refuge of the unimaginative. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. As the sun rings the doorbell, we ignite the engine, stumbling from one task to another, maybe enjoying a small part of it and enduring through the rest. All the while, the monotony of everything follows you everywhere, growing ever stronger until it suddenly creeps up and engulfs you, and you have to endure that feeling till you are allowed out. And as the day grows old, you fall into the void, only to repeat the banal pattern again and again. Attempts will be made to make you believe in a true pattern, the only way to live, regardless of how much it may hurt, how much irrational and lifeless it may be. But life can be interesting if you dare to imagine. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. Others may not understand, or maybe they will. Most of us are familiar with the lacerating self-doubt that we have to face alone while being surrounded by the relentless crowd convincing you to conform. When you are being told, you should do this, you have to do that, don't be afraid to ask why, as the answer will enlighten you and enable you to make better decisions in the future and cultivate your authenticity. A toxic answer to why is because everyone is doing it. Invisible prisons are constructed out of reasons that are presented as logical, with the reward of a somewhat safe, comfortable, and robotic existence, where you look towards society to determine how to behave and what to believe, living for the society and not for oneself. Can such an existence be classified as living? This is the prison that most people live in, reinforced by the scalding fear of what the tribe might think or say. But once you abandon the promise of normality and break free to find yourself, you will be able to cultivate your individual uniqueness. A person is worth something only when he has his own point of view. The modern tragedy is where individuals are supposed to mold society, society ends up molding the individual, conditioning the individual to defer to social norms. As Dostoevsky said, to go wrong in one's own way is better than to go right in someone else's. When you are unable to express yourself and during a silent and lonely quake, all you hope and wish for is the freedom to make your own mistake. Imagine a way out of the cage, allowing yourself to be free. Merge with contentment within the simple freedom to just be. So before I ask, who are you? Answer me this. Are you free? Thank you for watching.